Okay. So let's test this out here. Let me get the microphone closer to me. And let's just go over to my trusty YouTube. Switch over to this. Yes. Yes, indeed. Let's grab that. We'll go over here. And Alright, taken care of there. Short round. What's going on? Master Millions, how's it going? We'll be starting here in about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yup. What a day, what a day, what a day. Finished the main campaign and got all the footage I needed for the review that's going up Monday. Yes, indeedy. Looking forward to that. Hope y'all end up enjoying it as much as I did. We'll see. And all of a sudden, comments are... Or is that some weird little graphic that you're using there, Ace of Horns? My comment wasn't loading. That was a joke. Okay. Whatever, sir. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes and we're going to get going. Just making sure that everything's running smooth. As you can see, I've been so focused on work and making new content for you guys that I haven't even had time to shave. Oh boy. Oh boy. Lots of content stuff. Hello, 7th level. How's it hanging? Short, shriveling to the left, perhaps. Just kidding. Lol. Nihon Sama. I don't recall seeing you in previous 7th casts. Had to send my PS5 disk drive stopped working. Hopefully get a replacement or fixed. It's a day one PS5. Weird. I haven't had any issues with mine so far. Knock on wood. That was an emoji. Looks like I'm early. Just a little bit. We're about to get started. You got a favorite DualSense color, 7th? I haven't looked at the new ones. If I was going to buy one, I'd buy either black or red. Like that cosmic red that they have. That would be the one that I would buy. Probably the red one. I mean, I like black, but probably the red one. Grindhead Jim, how's it going, kind sir? I'm formerly known as Metalhead Nate. Well, you see, it's easier for me to keep track of y'all if you don't keep changing your names all the time. Good Lord. Right on time. Yes, it's 7 o'clock. It is Saturday, January 22nd, 2022, and this is the 7th cast. As always, I am your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. I give no quarter, and I ask none. 8th is off in his room doing 8 things. He's going to be having his birthday pretty soon here. And so I've been, setting up all of his birthday stuff. One of the things that he asked for, I already gave him, which was God of War on PC. He's got that beastly 3080 now, so he wants to be able to try out God of War on PC. I don't really care one way or the other myself, but, it is what it is. So, as you guys have known for quite a while now, I've been friends with the Game Chasers since around 2015, 2016, somewhere around in there. And so when I found out that they were making a movie, I went to Billy and I I'll do anything that'll help out, anything you want. But then it got to the point where work was getting so hectic that I wasn't having an opportunity that would line up with their availability for doing a lot of things. And so I ended up taking a much smaller role in the whole thing because regardless of how big my part was, I had intended to go up there and do whatever I could, whether that was going to be like chauffeuring people around to and from the set or whatever. But in 2019 at Retropalooza up in outside of Dallas, I filmed a cameo there, and then about a year later, uh, Billy was looking for pickup shots and doing some reshoots and whatnot, and he sent me a few lines of dialogue that he wanted for another segment, and I was like, "Well, you want me to be some other character?" And he's like, "No, same character, same character." So, Sarge, you guys know who Sarge is. Sarge shows up in the movie twice, and that movie premiered this past Thursday up in a little town a little ways north of Dallas. I believe it's called Plano. Never been there. And apparently it did very, very well. The person that you see in the chat there, Grindhead Jim, who said, "Evening, sir," he is in the film. I believe he plays like the. I haven't read the script. Okay, the only part of the script that I know about are the lines that Billy sent me for the pickup stuff that I did. I haven't read the script, but as I understand it, Jim plays like the sidekick to the main villain of the movie. I think, kind of the Otis to Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor kind of thing. That's my understanding of it. I could be completely wrong. Again, I haven't seen the movie. I was supposed to go to the premiere and see the premiere live, and it didn't happen. My company decided, a couple of reasons. My company decided that they were not going to grant any paid time off for the month of January. No exceptions. Don't know why. It just is what it is. And on top of that, with this Omicron thing, and I knew that there was going to be people from all over the country coming to this premiere, and with me having the comorbidities that I have and the health problems that I have, I just didn't feel that it would be a good idea for me. Not that I'm afraid that much for my own safety, but I don't want to catch anything and expose 8th to it. Because if something happens to me, then 8th is kind of on his own. There is no support structure outside of me. So Lord only knows what would happen to him if something suddenly happened to me. But anyway, I didn't get to go, but I've spoken with several people, including Jim here, who did go to the premiere. Apparently, it was a resounding success. Everyone thought it was really funny. The effects were really good. The music was great, and the acting was great. I've watched a couple of reviews, all spoiler free, so I still don't know the plot. But it's my understanding everything went great, and that as a side note, the 30 or 40 seconds that I'm on screen got big laughs. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy I put smiles on faces and that I contributed something that was actually useful to the guys. That was my main concern, was that never having been a professional actor, that I was going to be too over the top with Sarge, and that it was going to be too hammy compared to the other things in the film. And so I'm glad that didn't end up being the case and that it worked good. So as I understand it, the digital copies of the movie will be going out in about a month or so. That's when I'll get to see it. And then I was part of the Kickstarter for it. So I'll be getting the Blu-ray uh, sometime in the summer, I think. I can't even remember which tier I went for on the Kickstarter. I know it was over $200, but I don't remember what all I get from that. But you know the Blu-ray will come in the summer. I kind of like to have one of those shirts, but I don't think they'll that Billy will have them available in my size. I don't know. I'll have to find out. But I'm just happy that everything turned out the way it was. I'm very happy for them. There was just a tremendous amount of work that went into this thing, considering that the budget they had to work with, and because of that budget, the hurdles that they had to work around. There were issues with the shoot because of unexpected bad weather. Uh, they had arranged for specific sets that they didn't get to use because the ones they'd made their arrangements with backed out at the last minute, so they had to kind of work around that. There was all sorts of shooting challenges that happened during the movie, and they persevered and they got it made. And as I understand it from people that have watched it, yeah, this was a movie that was made for under $200,000, but yeah, it's not like some of the other YouTuber movies that have been made over the years. It looks like an actual film. So I'm really, really excited to see it. Yeah, I missed out on getting the chance to see my big fat ass on the big screen, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm all right with that because I know that a theater full of people got to see my big fat ass on screen and got a kick out of it. So that's all good. I don't know if Eighth showed up. Eighth was in one of the scenes, but he was part of a crowd, and at the time that they filmed the crowd, this big 6.5 foot tall dude kind of moved over in front of Eighth, and so you couldn't, at least from where I was standing on the where I was standing, I couldn't see Eighth behind this big 6.5 foot tall dude. So I'm not sure if Eighth shows up in the movie or not, but he was there in the crowd. So if at any point you actually get to watch the Game Chasers movie, which is called Adventures in Game Chasing, you can still pre-order the Blu-ray on either the Kickstarter or the Indiegogo or whatever site they went to. Jim, if you're still here and you have the link, feel free to paste it into the comments. You can still pre-order it. When you get a chance to see it, when you get to the scene that I'm talking about, you can know whether or not you actually see him or not, that Eighth is in the crowd. He's towards the front of the crowd on the left-hand side when the camera is viewing down at the crowd. That's where he is. So, when and if you get to watch the Game Chaser movie, look for him. Look for him. He's like the shadow of the shorter, long-haired dude standing behind the 6.5 foot tall dude. Indiegogo. Yeah, if it'll let you, Jim, go ahead and paste the link in the chat. I don't have it in front of me if anybody wants to pre-order. So let's see here. Let me catch up with questions real quick, and then we'll get into the second topic of the day. Let's see here. 7th, would you like to see Sony release a PS2 Mini? I don't really care about a PS2 Mini, no. I still have multiple working PS2s. I don't need a PS2 Mini. And I have at least one PS3 that still plays PS2 games. So I have no need for one. I wonder how he got a 3080, because I bought it for him like a year ago, almost a year ago. I bought it for him this time of year, but it didn't actually show up till like May. Hey, Nick Neal. So 8th's birthday is coming up soon, which means the puppy is becoming a big dog. Yeah, the puppy is about to be 1 year old. Puppy will be a year old in February. 7th, have you or anyone you seen Pineapple Express? What a wacky movie. Yes, I've seen Pineapple Express. I'm not a tremendous fan of Seth Rogen, but that one I kind of like. Uh, you and Eighth should go watch Scream 5 if you haven't done so already. The movie's surprisingly good. The main protagonist has a twist that has not been seen in any of the previous films. I'm burnt out on Scream, to be honest with you, Brother Natural. I don't think there should have ever been one past the first one because the sequels just got dumber and dumber as they went along. Maybe this one is great, I don't know, but I only marginally liked the first one. I didn't think it was scary. I thought it was more of a joke than anything else, that it was kind of a satire of the slasher genre. And so, I watched it for laughs, and that was about it. Seventh, are you on TikTok? No! No TikTok. Did the thing we shoot get scrapped? No, Eighth. Oh, that's right. Eighth is also in another scene. Uh, Filmed a lot of footage, but I'm not sure if Eighth's face actually gets seen in it. But there's another scene that was an outdoor scene. It was the pickup shots that I was talking about, and Eighth is in that. But I don't know if his face actually gets shown in it, or because he's like in the background behind me, or if he's kind of a from the neck down kind of thing. I haven't actually gotten to see, because we filmed like several shots, and so I'm not sure how much of it Billy actually used. I just know it was used. So I can't. The only the only one who would be able to say for sure whether Eight's long-haired face is actually shown behind the table. You know the scene that I'm talking about, Jim. Uh, the commercial scene where there's a sale going on behind me and there's a table there. If he's seen in the background in that shot, that would be where you would see him. But I don't know if Billy kept that much of it or if he cropped it or anything. I don't know. So you're the only one in here that'd be able to say. Let's see here. Do you think Microsoft is starting a monopoly with Activision? I'm about to get into that. Hey, Seven, thoughts on Grandia for the PS1? Well, actually, I think it's pronounced Grandia. Grandia on PS1 was a port of the Sega Saturn game, as I understand it, because when it originally launched in Japan, they made a big deal about it being the next big Saturn release. I've never played the Saturn version, but I have played the PS1 version, and I have the sequel on Dreamcast. I love the Grandia series. I wish that's another one I wish they bring back. Did I ever get the Polymega? No, I never got the Polymega. After I got screwed by Polymega and Walmart, I did not attempt to repurchase it. I would love to, but to get all the pieces is almost $1,000, and I don't have $1,000 laying around. But I guarantee you, if I had a Polymega, I would be doing retro streams for you guys on the regular. I just don't have the money to pre-order one. And that's why I've got this little Super Console X or whatever, but it doesn't play Saturn games. It doesn't play Saturn games. It doesn't play Dreamcast games because it's just a little emulator box. If I had the Polymega, I could actually take my original discs, put them in there, rip them externally to a built-in SSD you can get for it, and then I'd be able to play not everything, but dang near everything that you'd want to watch me play. But as it is right now, I'm limited to what's on there. Is what it is. But then again, whenever I would do the live streaming of gaming, only 10 or 11 of y'all would show up. So, I mean, how many of y'all really want to sit and watch me play old games, I believe so, but I can't remember for certain. That's okay. We'll find out when we see it in a month or so. Do you think it would be awful if the spell from No Way Home affected Toby's universe after MJ and Peter were good and possibly had a daughter? Well, I don't know. That's a lot of ifs, man. You're putting in a lot of additional factors in there. Microsoft could get. Yeah, let's get into the Microsoft thing since everyone's wanting to talk about it. So, newest acquisition: Microsoft buys Activision. It was almost $70 billion purchase. So that's going to get Game Pass some of Activision's back catalog. It ain't going to get it all. And the reason I say that is because more so than being their own developer, Activision over the years has spent a great deal of time being a publisher for licensed content. So, as an example, Transformers War for Cybertron and Transformers Fall of Cybertron. Microsoft does not own those. If they wanted to put those on Game Pass, they would have to re-up the licensing from Hasbro. Not to mention, I don't even remember what studio developed them, but they would not be able to just put those on Game Pass because they don't own the license to the property the game was for. They were the publisher. This also goes for the Ghostbusters. I believe it was developed by Atari, and they would not be getting Ghostbusters because the rights to Ghostbusters is owned by Sony Pictures. And they put out a lot of licensed content, especially during the PS4 and the PS3 and the PS2 era. So, you'll be getting some of Activision's back catalog, but certainly not all of it. Additional things. The primary things that they're getting from this are Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Diablo, and what was the other ones? There was like 4 or 5 of them that are actually worth a crap. That are actually worth money. And now I can't remember what the other ones were. But, I mean, the biggest one is Call of Duty. And Call of Duty, as you know, makes money hand over fist every year. The quality is not where it used to be. But it certainly plays into where Microsoft seems to be wanting to go, because this most recent Call of Duty is a game as a service type game. And so it plays in well with where Microsoft seems to want to be headed with a lot of their content generation. At the same time, for the last 2 generations now, the entirety of the last generation and about the last year or two of the previous generation, PlayStation was the biggest money-making platform for Call of Duty. So most of the marketing for the last several years has been through PlayStation. A lot of the advanced perks like new maps and stuff like that would hit PlayStation first. And a lot of those contracts are still in effect and are supposed to be in effect for several years from now. So Phil Spencer came out after Xbox fanboys were all over Twitter bragging about something that won't make them a dime, and said that Microsoft doesn't want to take Call of Duty away from the PlayStation platform. Thank you, John J., for subscribing. Appreciate it. Whether that means that that Diablo 4 is still going to come to PlayStation or not, who can say? I would assume that contracts were signed for that, but I'm not sure. Yeah, Overwatch. Overwatch was one of the other big ones. Crash Bandicoot. No one really cares about Crash Bandicoot anymore. Oh, and Spyro the Dragon. Nobody really cares about that anymore either. The re-releases didn't exactly set the world on fire sales-wise, and most of the people that did play them were on PlayStation. So, it's a sign of where the industry as a whole is headed. I warned you guys that this kind of thing was going to go on. I did not expect Microsoft to buy Activision. I expected them to go after some more smaller to middling studios. But when you look at the overall picture, uh, I don't think we've got the whole picture. I really doubt that Microsoft shelled out 70 billion just to be able to put some more old games on Game Pass. I think more than likely, and Eighth has brought this up too, that what they're looking for is the experience that some of these development houses have had in regards to running game as a service type games, big open world games, things of that nature, where they not talking about breaking these teams down and making and sending the developers of those teams to existing teams in Microsoft. Not saying that at all, but having a kind of a experience transfer where they'll send some of these guys over there just to like get the Microsoft's existing studios up to speed on here's how a game as a service works. Here's how you set this up. Here's how this works. Here's how you want to set up open world maps. Because believe me, after playing Halo Infinite, they don't know how to do an open world map. But I think that's a lot of it. And there's probably some third-party dev software that they want a hold of. They probably want some of the engines that Activision teams use, some of the rendering software, some of the tools that they have, and various other things. And there's probably some back-end contract agreements and whatnot that Microsoft considered lucrative. I know almost for a fact that $70 billion, they weren't just buying that to have Game Pass fodder. There's other things that they were looking at besides just the relatively small list of IP that they got from this, because again, Activision had their tried and true IPs, which was a small number, and that small number, even with Call of Duty being among them, I don't see being motivation enough for 70 billion, especially considering the fact Call of Duty is a franchise of people that are my age or getting close to my age. This is a PS3/PS4 generation thing. The generation of gamers coming in now don't give a crap about Call of Duty. They're Fortnite players. Now, if Microsoft had bought Epic, that would have been interesting. I know Call of Duty sells the most copies every year. It's always the biggest seller year after year. But as far as like generating revenue, Fortnite is a beast, especially because of all the different platforms that it's on. And I know World of Warcraft still makes money. However, World of Warcraft over the last couple of years has been kind of eclipsed by Final Fantasy Online and Final Fantasy 14, and to a lesser extent Elder Scrolls, which they already own. So I know it still makes money. I think it still makes a couple billion a year at least, but it's not the juggernaut that it once was. There's other options out there now. Anyway, it's never really a good thing when you have a buyout that's this big, and people are saying, well, Sony buys studios all the time. Sony buys itty bitty little indie studios and makes them into their own big studios. They buy them when they're small and they build them up. Insomniac was more of a mid-level. It was still an indie studio that had two different locations. You had one in North Carolina and one in California. So it was a bigger buy. But even beyond that, we're talking about a $200 and some odd million purchase. But most of the studios that they buy are really small, and then over time they build them up. I mean, Naughty Dog was really small when Sony bought them. So was Sucker Punch. Guerrilla Games was not a massive studio when they bought them. They build these studios and then they build them up. What we're talking about is buying one of the larger publishing houses in the Western gaming market, and taking stuff that used to be third party available on every platform and now putting it just under, you have to have a Game Pass account, or you have to, or you have to have an Xbox console or a PC. But it's all under the Xbox umbrella. If you play exclusively on a Nintendo system or a Sony system, you're not playing those games. And that's not what Sony does. With these studios that they've bought, like Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch and Insomniac. Insomniac, from a certain point, is the only one out of that list that had, over the last 20 years put out anything that was on another platform. Naughty Dog hadn't put stuff on another platform, on a different platform, since prior to the PS1. Same thing with Insomniac. Insomniac, they're the only ones out of all those who had recent games made available on other platforms. Insomniac had a little indie game about submarines. That they had a VR game, I think. They had a game called Fuse that, if I remember right, Electronic Arts was the publisher on it, and it was on every system, well, except Nintendo. It was on the 360 and the PS3, but it sucked, and because EA messed with it and made them change a bunch of stuff, and that made the game crap. And then, of course, they did Sunset Overdrive for Microsoft, but that was because they showed off the they showed the game off to all these different publishers and whatnot, including Sony, and they weren't fans of the premise and everything. So, but some of the tech that they used in the making of Sunset Overdrive eventually went into the creation of the Spider-Man game, so it all worked out in the end. But Guerrilla Games, all their stuff was, prior to being bought, was on PlayStation. Sucker Punch, prior to, well before Sony ever bought them, they were making the Sly Cooper games on PS2. So Sony buying those studios didn't take games away from platforms that they had previously been available on. You get what I'm saying? That's the difference between what Sony does and what Microsoft has done, and Microsoft is doing it on a massive scale. And that's going to, if it continues, we're still going to end up with the digital future that I talked about, with the subscription service thing that I'm talking about. But it can cause a homogenization of the market. You're already seeing it now, where you have a lot of games coming out that they want to make something that's going to be the most profitable, that's going to bring in the most players and whatnot. So you start to see things where everything just kind of starts to feel the same or look the same. Doesn't have to look the same, but the gameplay feels the same when you're playing it as something you've already played, instead of being an evolution of something. And everything just starts to get real samey. And that's not good for the industry. That's why I said years ago that nowadays the majority of the innovation that you see in big AAA are ideas that they stole from indie developers. And it's true. A lot of the stuff that we consider mainstays of gaming today started out on an indie game a few years ago. Just is what it is. Just is what it is. Let me check something real quick. All right. So that's my thing. As for whether or not it's going to mean ultimately that none of these games will ever show up on a Sony platform again, and it's just going to be like with Bethesda, that they honor their contracts that they have, and then that's the end of it. That's up to Phil Spencer. I mean, there are other examples of where he could have gone first party with stuff but did not. Uh, Minecraft Dungeons. Minecraft Dungeons came out after the Mojang buyout, and he still had that one as multiplat. I played it originally on PS4. So it all depends. And considering how much money, upfront annual money, they would be losing by taking it off the PlayStation platform as far as Call of Duty goes, I would say with confidence that in the least, Overwatch and if Overwatch continues, and Diablo are going Xbox exclusive, or in the least Game Pass exclusive. You won't be able to play it unless you have a PC or an Xbox, or an Xbox Game Pass account. Which is a shame, because Diablo has been a PlayStation thing for a long time. Diablo was available on the very first PlayStation, so there's definitely a history there. But it is what it is. Maybe Diablo 4 was going to be a dumpster fire, what with all the horrible mismanagement issues that's been going on with Activision, and maybe it'll end up being more what we all wanted Diablo 4 to be, now that Spencer is going to be running things. Who can say? I mean, in the least, none of this is going to happen for another 18 months anyway, and that's if the Department of Justice actually allows it to go through. This could be something where they determine that it's too monopolistic and don't allow it. I've been around when that happened. I remember when the government split up the phone companies, and AT&T was getting too big or whatever, and they split it up into a bunch of different things. We shall see. We shall see. Let me see. All right, so let me catch up here. Let's see here. Nintendo is currently worth less than $70 billion. If Xbox tries to buy them, I'll get angry. You know who Sony could have... I said this on Twitter. If Sony... I mean, my gut tells me that Sony should just continue to build up the studios that they have, so that, for example, Sucker Punch... Expand Sucker Punch to 3 teams so they can work on 3 games at once. Expand Naughty Dog to 3 teams so they can work on 3 games at once. Do that with all their studios. So instead of getting one Naughty Dog game every couple of years, you're getting a new Naughty Dog game every year, and from the different teams. And the same thing with all those studios. If they did that, they wouldn't have to buy anything else. You know what I'm saying? As far as first-party exclusive stuff goes, they wouldn't have to buy anything else. But the problem being is that this buy doesn't... it's not detracting anything from Sony on a first-party level. It's lowering the amount of third-party they have coming in. And... third-party games sell better on consoles than the first-party stuff does. It's the way it's always been, way it always will be, except for Nintendo. Nintendo is the only exception to that rule. Their first party stuff is always their biggest sellers on the system. Because that's what people buy Nintendo for now. Nintendo, except for the diehards, is the secondary console. You buy this, and then you get a Nintendo because you want to play Mario, Zelda, and Metroid, and Super Smash Brothers. You see? Let's see here. But Nintendo would never allow themselves to be bought, especially not by a Western buyer. They've already turned Microsoft down once. But what I was saying when we first found out about this, I said it on Twitter and I said it to 8th. If Sony decided that they wanted to compete or try to one-up or equal counter Microsoft in this endeavor, that I felt they should just forget about the Western market outside of their own internal studios and start buying up some of the Japanese market, some of the Japanese developers. And because of the fact that so much of the Japanese market has been transitioning away from consoles anyway and making little mobile games for the Japanese audience to play on to and from their way to work while they're all sitting on buses and trains for 2 hours a day. You have to look back at Sony's history. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, one of the things that made their libraries so diverse when compared to what Xbox was offering, not with the PS2 because PS1 because Xbox didn't exist yet, was Japanese games, Japanese action games, Japanese strategy games, Japanese RPGs. Square Enix is only worth about 33 million. What is it? They're not worth a whole lot. They would be a relatively small buy as far as what their market value is. The one I was thinking that was like 33 million is a company called Nipponichi. They're the owners of NIS America that makes all the strategy RPGs and lower tier fighting games. That would be a cheap, easy buy for Sony. Level 5. Falcom. The list goes on and on. That they could buy those. Namco Bandai would be a big win. Capcom. Capcom would make sense because of the fact that Sony currently has exclusive platform rights to Street Fighter as it is anyway. And Sony recently purchased that esports company. So if something as big as Street Fighter was going to be, exclusive to Sony platform, who owns this big esports company, there's a lot of potential there. But again, when you compress things down like that to where there's only a couple of really big companies that are buying up all these smaller companies, bad things always happen. Look at Disney. Disney loves to buy stuff. And, I'm a former Disney cast member. I have a lot of fond memories of Disney. They didn't pay me a whole lot, but for the most part, they treated me really good. And I've been neck deep in Disney stuff from the time I was this tall. First time I ever went to Disney World, I was 3 years old. And they have bought up a ton of stuff. Some of you guys are looking at the Microsoft Studio list now that they've bought Activision. That's like 30 companies, right? You ought to pull up the similar sheet for Disney sometime. It is massive. They own companies in almost every industry you can imagine. It's ridiculous. And look at how things have gone. You want a perfect example of how things can start to go downhill when you start having these big conglomerates of a bunch of stuff that used to be on its own now being under this umbrella. Look at Star Wars. Enough said. Because they try to remold it and reshape it to function under the Disney corporate culture, so that it feels, so that it, they don't have to change any of their corporate culture to accommodate it. They take that round peg and try to shove it down in the square hole, or the other way around, I should say. And Disney Star Wars is partly what you end up with, especially with a company that leans on the side of politics that Disney does. Now there have been some that when I suggested that Sony buying Japanese companies would be a terrible idea because they like to edit games, they censor games, and I'm like, well, give me an example. Devil May Cry 5. Oh no, you didn't get to see a cartoon ass. I'm sure that ruined the gameplay for you. Look, there have been games that had nothing to do with Sony censoring, but were censored for the Western market for years. Going way back. Bionic Commando. In Japan, the bad guys weren't called the Bads. They were Nazis. And the bad guy didn't just look like Hitler, he was Hitler. Multiple JRPGs have Christian symbolism all over the Japanese version. Comes to the US, cross is taken out, Bible's taken out, various different things removed from the Western version. Xenogears. An entire subplot about a cult, a religious cult, removed from the Western version. But any of you out there who has played Xenogears, you didn't know that at the time that you played it, did you? You still loved it, didn't you? I'm just saying. Do I think censorship is bad? Yes. Do I need to see cartoon anime tits and ass for me to enjoy a game? No. Now, one thing that I have a problem with is Western... $5 from Ace of Horns. Thank you. That puts us to $45 left till we hit the extension, the 1 hour extension. So, and we started an hour late, so we're currently running till 10. $45 more will run to 11. So, I have issues with translations that are changed around too much. Especially when they're changed around to cater to a certain political mindset. Funimation loves to do this kind of crap, and Funimation is owned by Sony, where they would take a Japanese anime, and when they write the scripts for the Western translation, they threw in references to Gamergate on one of them, which was a totally Western event. Gamergate did not go on in Japan, and they use derogatory Western vernacular to make fun of gaming nerds and incel, neckbeard, blah blah blah. When your translation changes the actual tone of the story or changes the motivations of characters and whatnot, yes, I'm against that. blurring out nipples and ass cracks, I could not care less. And I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm sorry if you play if that's a problem for you because you play your video games with one hand on the controller and the other on your dick. I'm sorry, but I'm not that guy. And so, not being able to see a little TNA in a cartoon TNA in a video game makes no never mind to me. It's when they start messing with the storyline and messing with the characters. Give me an example. And you guys know that I'm not homophobic, that I've got gay friends, trans friends, every kind of friend you can imagine. If they had brought, I don't know, let's say Devil May Cry 6 came out, and Devil May Cry 6 in Japan just felt like another Devil May Cry. They bring it over to the States, and Zoe Quinn is made lead writer for the American translation. And she makes Dante a trans boy. That it turned out the whole time he was born a female and transitioned to male. I would have a problem with that. I would have a problem with that. I think most of you would too. I don't have a problem with trans characters in gaming, but taking an existing character and changing the character, I have a problem with. So that would be a form of censorship slash repurposing the narrative that I would have a serious problem with. But, blocking out cartoon TNA, I could not care less. Cutting out a sex scene, I couldn't care less. Would Mass Effect have been any less fun for you if you didn't get to watch the Cinemax quality sex scenes in those games? Would the original God of War games really been that less fun for you without the button mashing quick time event sex scenes? Must not have been, because you all loved God of War 4 and it didn't have any of that in that. I don't think God of War had a single exposed boob. And I didn't hear anybody complaining that loud about that. I think I might have made a joke about it in my review, but I didn't care. 8th certainly didn't care. And I don't think that ever really came up as that big of a topic when God of War 2018 came out. But the reality is that most of the people that would be complaining about Sony buying up these Japanese studios, oh, Sony's going to censor them, are hentai fappers. Hentai fappers. That's who they are. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say about it. So I'll just start answering questions now. How's that? Let's see here. Didn't look at Steam. Right. Only thing I don't want Microsoft to do is buying one of these Japanese companies. Look, if Sony could easily afford to buy Square Enix, Sega, maybe not Sega, but Capcom, Level 5, all these ones that I already mentioned, Sony could afford them. And if Sony can afford them, Microsoft could afford them. The question is, would any of these Japanese companies allow themselves to be bought by Microsoft? That's the question. And considering how xenophobic it can be over there in regards to Western products and whatnot, I just don't see it. I don't see these companies taking that pill from Microsoft. I don't see it. Anyway, let's see here. I know you've probably already covered, but I hope that Sony should. I just finished talking about it. I don't see Sony buying Rockstar because Rockstar, as of right now, is a company that doesn't put out games frequently enough to where it would be worth it to Sony. You know, they've been re-releasing Grand Theft Auto 5 now for two generations. And the last new thing that they put out was Red Dead Redemption 2, and it had been years since they put anything out by the time Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. They're a very slow developer, which is mystifying because of the actual quality of their games. You know, Red Dead Redemption 2 looked pretty, but it wasn't all that great to actually play. It just looked good. But there's so much of those games that's antiquated by today's standards, but people still lap them up. I don't think that would be all that great of a buy for Sony, other than just to be able to say PlayStation is the home of Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead. You're going to get a new game in both of those every 7 to 8 years. I've seen some ridiculous tweets from Xbox blaming PlayStation for Sega leaving the console market. Sega caused that. Sony didn't cause that. Sega were already on their way out before the PS1 ever dropped because of bad business decisions. It was just a very, very slow death. Sony needs to buy Sega. Sega would be a pretty expensive buy for Sony because Sega aren't on their own anymore. They were bought by they merged with Sammy, so they're now Sega Sammy, and included in that is Atlas. So they're quite a big thing now. I don't know if Sony could afford that. And I've heard people say Sony should buy FromSoft, but FromSoft is actually part of a big multimedia company called Kadokawa, I think. They also make a lot of anime stuff. And Sony owns a stake in Kadokawa, or however it's pronounced. But, they wouldn't be able to just buy FromSoft outright because FromSoft is already owned by somebody else. Let's see here. I've always thought Sony should have been more like Nintendo with their IPs and legacies. Well, if Microsoft keeps buying up third-party developers and making them first-party, Sony is going to become exactly what Nintendo is, a platform that people only buy to play the first-party stuff, which is also, by the way, mostly what Sega was in the generations following the Genesis. On the Genesis, you had third party out the butt, but starting with the Saturn, there wasn't near as much third party. There was some, but not as much. And by the time you got to Dreamcast, yes, there was some third party, but you mainly bought a Dreamcast to play first party stuff, and that could end up being Sony if Microsoft keeps buying. Like if Microsoft buys Ubisoft. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get way worse. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this generation, because all the things I've been worried about and all the things I've been warning you guys about is happening now. And, I'm just sitting back with fire retardant clothes on and a bag of popcorn. Medium is not an in-house game. Microsoft does not own the studio currently that made the Medium. They just helped fund the game. And they don't actually own, unless they just really recently bought them. They don't own the studio that made Cuphead either. They just had temporary publishing rights on it. So. Kind of a different story there. They publish the game, but they don't own that. That's what's called second party development. Second party. For years and years, Insomniac was a second party developer for Sony. Sony owned the rights to Ratchet and Clank, but they didn't own Insomniac for years and years and years and years. Same thing with Resistance. Until they finally convinced Insomniac to let them purchase them. Seventh, can I get a wish of good luck as this Monday I'll be going to MSF school for getting my motorcycle license? Well, good luck, but I kind of feel wrong about wishing you luck on learning to drive a motorcycle because that's a very dangerous form of transportation. I've had so many friends and family members that have been permanently injured or disfigured from motorcycle riding. So I wish you luck, but it's a wish I wish I didn't have to give you. Uh, just as an example, some of you have probably seen that footage that came out this week of some guy that stole a motorcycle and was driving through LA, and he was going an excessive rate of speed. He plowed into another driver, and it sent him flying a good 60, 70 feet, and he died on impact. I'll tell you a story. I've told this story before. One time, I was on a business when I was living in Florida. I was on a business trip to Miami, and there was the street that I needed to turn onto to make the last leg of the drive into Miami was blocked off by police cars, but for some reason they let me drive through it. And I drove a ways, and I came across an 18-wheeler parked on the side of the road, and there were police cars, and they stopped me, and they thought that I was like with CSI or something, that I was a medical examiner. And I'm like, no, I'm just an IT technician. I need to drive down this road to get to Miami. And I happened to glance over at the 18-wheeler. I'm parked adjacent to it, and there's a motorcycle lying on the road, and up in the wheel well of one of these 18-wheelers is the arms and head of a guy wrapped over the wheel, and on the ground, several feet below that, are a pair of legs with an intestine connecting the two. And that's why I don't really encourage motorcycle driving. I'm just saying. But best of luck to you. Anyway, NIS would be a good one. If I was Sony, I would buy NIS, and I would get one of their JRPG studios at work on reviving the Legend of Dragoon series. You know, if Microsoft wants to have a lock on Western RPGs, then let the PlayStation have a lock on Japanese RPGs, and let's get them back up to the quality that they were in the PS1 and PS2 era, where every other month you had this brand new epic JRPG coming out that makes some of the stuff that came out over the last two gens, aside from the Tales series and Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, look like shit. Let's see here. Did you see that PlayStation is going to make an announcement tomorrow on a Sunday? Kind of a weird day to make an announcement a Sunday. Arc System Works would be a good one, because that would get them a lot of the lower tier JRPGs and fighting games. So they could take something like that, build it up to where they had bigger budgets, and man, you'd get some fighting game bangers out of that. Well, we'll see. There's that Russian bot again, or whatever the heck it is. I don't know why that keeps showing up. I'm way behind on comments here. So because people keep bringing up interesting topics. Let me see. Damn, how far behind am I? Oh, by the way, Ace of Horns actually, Seventh, have you ever heard of the Vectrex console? What do you think, buddy? Ever heard of the Vectrex console? I own one, son. I own one. It was gifted to me anonymously. Billy. Let's see here. High seventh, final boss of Gears is Yahweh in the original Japanese. They changed it to Dio. Yeah. I'm still trying to catch up to everything. Let's see here. All right. Do you think Sony would buy Take-Two? Kind of doubt it. That's a lot of money. Sony is typically more about making smaller, more affordable buys and then building stuff up. Let's see. Rumor has it. It's going to be available on Xbox on a recent leak. Censoring characters from software. Final boss is Xenogear Yahweh. Exactly. Here's a kind of far out idea. Part of an interview, can't remember from where, they said that the purchase of Activision will aid in the development of the metaverse. They want the studios that are familiar with making a live service game to help in making this metaverse thing, and the IPs will help. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Konami. I don't see them buying Konami as a company, but I could see them buying the rights to some of their IP. So rather than buying Konami outright, I could see them buying Castlevania as a property, Contra, stuff like that. Metal Gear. Tokes is in here. Hey, Tokes. Sorry, man. I'm still trying to catch up, man. I'm still trying to catch up to the comments here. Hey, Tokes. At the end of the day, Microsoft dwarfs. Business credit rating, borrow money after a large acquisition. If Sony wanted Crash and Spyro, they would have to buy those IPs. True. Question was for ever played Buck Bumble? No, I have not played Buck Bumble, whatever that is. Let's see. Is Oculus the best VR? Better than Sony VR? People say Oculus, buying Oculus like crazy. Eighth would be the better one to answer that than me, Tokes, because Eighth has actually had more experience playing VR than I have. Let's see here. The reason I want Sony to buy Arc System Works is because Sony bought Evo, so it would be perfect. Jacoby Mans, I'm a little late. No worries. Video game lover, why do you keep saying, oh my god? What are you oh my godding about? And Dizzy123, damn about what? To compete with Microsoft buying out companies, I think Sony isn't going to buy out video game companies. I believe Sony's going to hire independent companies for PlayStation exclusive. Well, they're kind of doing that. They've been doing that for a while. And then after the company does well enough for them, they buy them up, like Housemarque. Housemarque was an indie company that was only putting stuff out for PlayStation and only put out stuff for PlayStation for years. And then after a while, Sony bought them. Bloody Roar 2. I remember that being a fun franchise. I tweeted it at you. Okay, I'll look at it in a minute. Sony bring back Legend of the Dragoon, Legend of Legaia, Arc the Lad, Dark Cloud, and Wild. Dark Cloud was level 5, so buy level 5. Some of the best exclusives that previous generations of PlayStation ever had were made by level 5. 7th, I feel like Sony needs to make a move and scoop up some studios. Well, a lot of people are saying that. I'm just saying the more studios get bought up, the worse things get. Any pressure or something? Ember Lab and build them up. That'd be nice. Oh, the makers of Kena or whatever. Just got myself an official PS5 black plate, and the difference is practically night and day. I'm not looking to spend money on buying plates because I know that a redesign of the console will eventually come out, and I'll just get the black version of the redesign. That's the way I look at it, rather than spending money on plates. Oh, you were saying damn because of the motorcycle story. Sorry, I'm just trying to get caught up with the chat. Let's see here. In fact, I got so wrapped up in this that I completely missed something. Here we go. Two hours left. We're at 2 hours, and we've had one $5 donation. We're $45 short of extending by 1 hour. Moving on. Let's see here. I don't have one at the moment, but I have used one. Better resolution, better tracking. An Oculus? You have an Oculus in your room. What do you mean you don't have one? Did I miss a comment? Oh, Oculus Quest 2. Okay. Sorry, missed that part. I thought you were just talking about Oculus. I thought you were just talking about Oculus in general. 8th has the Oculus Rift, or whatever the original one was called. 7th, this is far-fetched. Is there any independent game companies that Sony deals with who won't sell out, I wonder? Probably. There's probably still some out there, yeah. Let's see here. We need a new Sly game. Feels like it's been forever since Thieves in Time. Thieves in Time didn't do well. And a lot of people didn't like it compared to the first 3. So, we'll see how that goes, man. I'm playing through Sly 2 on the PS3 now. Sly is solid, but I prefer Ratchet and Jack. I prefer Ratchet out of all 3, and we got new Ratchet, so I'm happy. Of course, Tokes, there's also the Vive. I don't know if Vive is still a thing, and Valve has their own VR helmet thing too now. So I've been playing Diablo 2 Resurrected. I have that. I have it on PS5. I played it for a little bit and then I got distracted by other stuff. Eventually, I need to get back to it. Hebot wants Microsoft to monopolize the industry. That's because Hebot is an idiot. Nobody should monopolize the industry. Sony should not own all of the big publishers any more than Microsoft should. I wouldn't be behind any of them. I wouldn't have been behind any of them buying Bethesda or buying Activision or buying Ubisoft or buying Take-Two. Buying little small studios, okay, but buying these massive companies that have God knows how many other contracts that don't have anything directly related to the games that end up on store shelves. We're not seeing the whole picture with these big buys. There's other things that are being picked up with these purchases. And it's going to be a few years before we see the real outcome of what this does to our hobby. Everyone right now is just looking a mile down the road, and I'm trying to see the other side of the map. The one thing that I will say is that if Activision was going to be sold, better it be sold to Microsoft than sold to Google or Amazon. Do you remember your favorite PlayStation game for each generation? No, because I never have one favorite game of a generation. I have favorite game in a genre, uh, but not favorite game in general. And sometimes it depends on the year. Favorite RPG of 1997, favorite RPG of this and that. I never have like my favorite PS4 game ever. My tastes are too diverse for that. Would Sumo Digital be a good purchase? I don't know, man. Some of Sumo Digital stuff is hit or miss. Same thing with Devolver Digital. Yeah, it's hit or miss stuff. I hope Twisted Metal Remake won't flop. I don't think it will be as good as Black. Well, we've already seen one reboot of Twisted Metal on the PS3, and it didn't exactly set the world on fire. Worst Sonic game you've ever played? Sonic 06. Don't you miss cigarettes? Not really. Let's see. I'm in the process of buying an i9 3090 RTX desktop. Do you know a good website I could buy one for a good price? Nope. I was lucky to get to score a 3080 for 8th at the price that I did. 3090, whew. But I mean, you're gonna have a hard time just getting, the card itself. If you're gonna buy like a pre-built, there's companies out there, Meta PC, CyberPower PC. There's companies you can go through for that. But, you're going to be spending a couple of grand on stuff when you start talking about putting a 3090 and everything in it. Uh, I've done business with CyberPower before, and with the exception of one instance where they sent me a PC that had a lemon for a CPU, so I had to ship it back to them to get the CPU replaced. Other than that, I haven't had any problems out of them. Yeah, Sumo was involved in Crackdown. Body Count wasn't really a remake of Black, it was a spiritual successor to Black. Didn't really play that much like Black, aside from a few elements to it. Yeah, let's not bring up Hannah Montana Narcomi anymore. No. I've blacked that out from my memory. Do you think the Xbox fanboys who are mocking Sony supporters will reap what they sow? Well, things tend to be cyclical, but this is Microsoft is pushing the industry as we know it, the console industry, into a totally different direction. And I don't know how well Sony are prepared to go into that direction. So it's kind of hard to predict how things are going to go right now. There's a rumor that Sumo Digital is making a Sly Cooper. Well, we'll see. Thoughts on the film Dr. Giggles? I only watched it once and thought it was stupid and never watched it again. For me, it wasn't that much greater than The Ice Cream Man. If you've ever seen The Ice Cream Man. I remember seeing one a while back that was one of those movies where he was trying to be like Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's kind of a supernatural slasher type thing. And uh, it was catered to the African American movie market. It was direct to video. I want to say it was made by Full Moon, that Charles Band run company, and it was called Killjoy, if I remember right. And it was a black circus clown, a supernatural back from the dead circus clown who killed people. And I think it was called Killjoy. And it was supposed to be a legit scary film, but I laughed my ass off through that movie. And when I think of Dr. Giggles, I kind of think of that kind of thing, the unintentionally funny horror film. That's one of them. Loved your SingStar videos with 8th back in the day. I made a SingStar video. I don't remember making a SingStar video. I remember making some rock band videos. I did some rock band Green Day videos back in the day, but they all got copyright struck, so I had to take them down. But I'm not all that great overall with stuff, and it wasn't SingStar. It was what was the name of it? It wasn't SingStar. It was that game where it would green screen you into clips of famous movies. U-Star. It was U-Star. Those are the ones that had me in 8th in them, where I was doing Rocky Balboa and Mr. Miyagi and all that kind of stuff. It was U-Star. I'm surprised I didn't get copyright struck for those, but I didn't. But when I did those rock band Green Day videos where I was singing Green Day songs, every single one of them got copyright struck. And that kind of pissed me off because, I'm terrible at doing stuff like Journey or, Breaking Benjamin or any of the other bands that were on Rockstar. But I'd rock the hell out of the Green Day stuff. I was getting 98 and 99% on Expert. When it comes to Green Day, I'm damn good. Thoughts on Peacemaker? Peacemaker has been a lot of fun. When I saw the trailers, I was like, oh, this is going to be some cringy, terrible shit. But it's actually a lot of fun so far. I did not like John Cena's character in the film, but I like the character now. He's really fleshed it out. And, it's written by, all of it is written by James Gunn, who did the Guardians movies, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he directed the most recent Suicide Squad film. And they've obviously just let him do whatever he wants. Because in the first episode, there's a scene where John Cena is like buck naked banging this chick from behind. When did you ever think you'd see John Cena doing that on screen? So it's been really funny. And there's a character in it that's called Vigilante that it seems like they're trying to make him kind of the Deadpool of this series. He's almost got that kind of a sense of humor. He doesn't do the fourth wall breaking stuff, but he has that kind of vibe to him a little bit. And it's just been fun. It's been fun. One of the actresses from Orange is the New Black, the one, I can't remember the actress's name, but she played the character Tasty. She's in it, and she's really good. It's just been a lot of fun so far. Can't wait for the next episode to drop. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Book of Boba Fett, not so much. Oh my God. What an inconsistent piece of crap the Book of Boba Fett is. It's so unnerving because of how good The Mandalorian is. And here comes Book of Boba Fett. And the only episode that's been good so far is episode 2 with the train scene. The episode 2 went real deep into the backstory between Boba and the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders. And living with the Tusken Raiders is what changed him as a person and as a man, and that epic train scene that was really well done. But every other episode has just been hot garbage. And I don't understand it because Favreau's involved. Favreau's been writing it. Filoni's been co-writing it with him. I don't understand why The Mandalorian is so good, but the Book of Boba Fett is such trash. I don't get it. All for naught, Sony and Nintendo can merge and finally release the Nintendo PlayStation console. That would actually be kind of interesting to see, like some of Nintendo's like crossovers between Nintendo and Sony franchises. Uh, but then again, most of Sony's franchises nowadays are like really adult stuff. So you know, I don't foresee seeing like Cole McGrath uh, mixing up with Mario outside of like Super Smash Brothers or something if that was to happen. But I will now have another $5 donation from Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Thank you, sir. That puts us up to $10. Both of you get the dollar bill. Hang on, I forgot to do that. Dollar bill, y'all. Competition is good and all, but I wish everything was one platform like the NES days. Yeah, we were paying up to $80 for a game, but they were complete. Well, what about all the folks that had Sega Master System, Horseman? I can barely say that with a straight face. I mean, the Master System was good, but not in the U.S. The games you could get on it in the U.S. were good, but like if you lived in the 80s and you lived in Europe, you didn't care whether you had an NES or not if you had a Master System, because the library over in Europe was beastly. The library here in the States was kind of... let's see here. Favorite wrestling game. I really liked that WWE All-Stars game that came out a few years ago. That one was a lot of fun. I liked that Saturday Night Slam Masters that I think Capcom made it back in the day. There was an arcade game called Wrestle War that wasn't released on console in the States, but it was released on Mega Drive. And I actually had the Mega Drive game for several years. I lost it in the infamous yard sale debacle of 2004. It's really fun. I liked a lot of the original WWF arcade wrestling games, like WrestleFest and WWF Superstars and all that stuff. I actually like NES Pro Wrestling, Tecmo World Wrestling on the NES. Those were good. And I even liked the WCW wrestling game that was out for the NES. I liked it too. So I've not been a fan of the more modern WWF games because I generally don't like the way they play. But, I've played wrestling games on and off for years. I like the ones that are a little more arcadey. The Book of Boba Fett. I like that. All Xbox fans and fanboys have thug tears in the end of this gen. Sony will kick their ass. Well, we'll see. I am the gamer. We'll see. I think this one's going to be a much closer gen, to say the least. No, I don't care at all about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League because everything that I've heard about it so far makes it sound like it's going to be a multiplayer co-op game as a service type thing, and they can take, if that's what it ends up being, they can take that and shove it right up their ass. I don't care about that. From Lord 8th. Oh shit, an RCE was just discovered in the net code for, I'm assuming that's Dark Souls 3, and if it's the same net code, Elden Ring would have to too. Guess I'm not playing those online on Steam. Well, it's a good thing I bought you the PS5 version then, isn't it? At least I think that's the version I bought you. Pre-ordered anyway. Ratchet and Sackboy would blend in well with Nintendo's IPs. True. And so would Astro. You know, people always talk about how great the WWF games were on Nintendo 64. I liked the WCW games better, like NWO Revenge and all that. I thought they were better than what WWF was putting out at the time. They played better, they controlled better. Sackboy on PS5 was surprisingly decent. On the surface, it doesn't look all that, but it plays and looks great. Yeah, it's all right. I've played the PS5 version. I haven't beat it, but I've played it some with 8th. It was okay. I'm not a fan of Jim Ryan. I don't really care for him too much either. He's just not good, and he's just not good on camera for one thing, and secondly, he's said a lot of stupid things, and yeah, I'm just not a fan of him. I liked Sean Layden and I liked Jack Trenton. I don't like Jim Ryan at all. Yeah, 2K20 was just so glitched out. It was obviously not ready to be released. Kind of like Dark Alliance. Did you guys notice that on my new channel, I posted a brand new review for Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance? Have y'all watched it yet? From Tokes, let's hope 2K22 is a whole lot better with no glitches and hackers. That remains to be seen, Tokes, because good God, 2K20 had a lot of bad glitches. I don't know that much about hacking that went on in it, but the glitches, good Lord. Minecraft had a remote code execution exploit recently, got patched fast, but FromSoft is notoriously lazy in fixing their bugs. From Tokes, I'm Batman. Just wanted to say that, lol. I'm Batman. You mean the DBTS channel? Yes, the new channel. I posted this past Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember which, brand new review that's never been on this channel for Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance. I don't think I watched. Did I watch Angry Joe? Yeah, I watched Angry Joe's review of it because they were making fun of that crappy costume that other Joe bought for his character or whatever that he had unlocked. I watched even though I don't care about D&D, just supporting. Thank you, Four Horsemen. Yes, the DBTS channel belongs to me. Yes. I think that's been well established, Master Chief. I really should update you guys on that. I haven't even talked about it today. Uh, the channel's been open a week. I haven't done any promotion on it other than to post a little 2-minute video on this channel saying, hey guys, I made a new channel. And it's up to 205 subscribers so far. So I need to get 795 more subscribers. And I have to hit 4,000 total hours watched before I can get that channel partnered. So we're doing pretty good considering the channel has only been open for a week or so. But again, new review, brand new review, not a re-up, but a brand new review will be coming Monday or Tuesday, depending on how long it takes me to build it. Already got the footage recorded, already got the script written. I just got to put everything together. Has anyone played Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3? 8th has played it. I haven't played it. We need Batman Arkham Beyond with Terry. Well, we'll see. I personally was not a fan of Batman Beyond, but that's just me. FromSoft did patch years after the netcode update thing. Not sure at all. Thoughts on Black Baron? Still hasn't won a match in AEW. Like I said, Black Baron is enhancement talent. He's there to make the other guys look good. Maybe one day he'll get an actual push, but if it hasn't happened by now, then he may just have to be at peace with the fact that as far as things go in his current career, he is the Barry Horowitz of the AEW. Bye, Master Chief. It's been 4 years since a patch, so they stuck with it for 2 years. So next month we've got Horizon Forbidden West and Elden Ring. I've got both of those pre-ordered for 8th as kind of late birthday presents. So I'm not sure what I'm going to be playing next. I've got such a backlog as it is that I'm halfway through Guardians of the Galaxy. I haven't even started Tales of Arise. I haven't even started on Scarlet Nexus. There's a bunch of games that I want to be playing, but I just haven't gotten started on them yet. And part of that is that, those are RPGs, and I just don't think with those games I could plow through them in a week's time so that I could have a review posted. Part of the reason that my reviews haven't done as well as they used to is because I had the free money available to where the day the game came out, I had it in my mailbox. I could pop it in, play it, grab some footage, and make a review. So my reviews were recent enough to where people were still watching videos about them. Dark Alliance came out 7 months ago, and I'm posting a review of it now. You see? No one cares about it anymore. They cared about it when it first came out. But my money issues right now with me having to pay my student loan at $300 a month is taking $300 a month out of my fund money that used to pay for games. And so here now I'm finally at a point in my job where I have time to play games and I have time to make the reviews, but now I don't have the spending money to be buying all of these, and my channel's not big enough for me to get review codes for these AAA games. The only games I get review codes for are little indie games on Steam that you guys wouldn't care about anyway. So I'm kind of stuck. The new channel isn't monetized, so I'm not getting any money off of that for buying games to review. The new channel, doesn't have a Patreon or anything. And even, I've had a Patreon for years and nobody, it did all right when I first opened it. But then when all my channel traffic died, those Patreon members just kind of dumped the Patreon. If I had 500 subscribers that sent me $1 a month, that'd be $500 a month that I could just be buying all the new games that come out every month. But I'm not popular enough for that. And until I get more of these bills paid off, my money situation is going to be tight. So, I don't know ultimately how successful this new channel thing will be because I don't have the money to review games when they're new. I typically, lately, have only been buying the games that 8th wants to play. And then I play them after he's done with them. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm not giving up on it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep making new content. I'm just telling you that in a lot of these cases, it's going to be games that you might have already played by now. Most likely have, because I don't have the money to keep up with to stay current with the release calendar on everything. Certainly don't make enough on this, and I appreciate you guys that donated $10. I do. You guys know that the donations that I get on here, they don't go towards bills, they go towards the channel. Whether that be buying new equipment, buying new software that I want to use, buying games for me to review, all the money goes to that. The only exceptions to that was years ago when 8th was still in school and his laptop died and he needed a new one. And over the course of like a month, you guys donated enough for him to get a new laptop. And that's been the only exception to that. So, and we haven't had a 6-hour podcast on the 7thCast since May of last year. That's how long it's been. It's been a long time. But, I thought about retooling my Patreon to where, folks that were members of the Patreon could hold, once it got to the point where it was making enough that the people that were on the Patreon could have a weekly vote on what game I was going to play and review for the next week. And whatever that game was, I'd order it with the money made from the Patreon, play it, review it. But, you have to have members for that. And for it to really work and have enough money to do that, I'd have to have like 500 people that are monthly donating $1. And I don't think that's happening. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Money is tight all around, and this podcast is an example of that. I've never pressured you guys to donate on the podcast, but, it at one point it was a normal thing to make, $50 one week, $100 the next week. One time I'd had $473 in one night because a couple of guys were competing to be the top donator that night, and it was insane. And nowadays, it's typically, $5 or $10 a night. And because of the way YouTube is, the only ones that I actually get are these, because being partnered by YouTube directly instead of through a company like I used to be with Screenwave, I don't get that money every month. I only get money from YouTube when the total that's in there reaches $100, and then they take 30% of that, and I get $70. And as of right now, there's not enough. It hasn't hit $100 yet for a good long while. So it is what it is. I'll do the best I can with what I've got to work with. I'll make you that promise. Let's see here. The main issue, Tokes, is that if I don't get the review out within probably 2 weeks of the game coming out, nobody will watch it because they've already burned through the game and have moved on to the next game and don't care what you think of it. That's the main issue. And, GameFly sucks now. So when a new game comes out, it might be 2 weeks before you can get a copy of it in your mailbox anyway. So GameFly is out. That's not a viable option. I have to be able to buy the game or get a review code. And I'm currently not popular enough to get review codes for the big games. So the only way I'm playing them is if I buy them. How many subscribers do you need to get partner? Another 795. And then I have to start averaging 4,000 hours of watch time a year. Now that's one way that you guys could all support me on this, okay? Let me explain to you how the algorithm works, because it's a multi-tier thing. The algorithm likes when you post a longer video, because the longer the video is, the more advertisements they can cram onto it. They like feedback and interaction. So they like it when you click the like button. They like it when you leave a comment. So, but the other big thing is engagement. This is the biggest thing, really. Engagement is the average amount of time that a person who clicks on your video actually watches it. And I'm not pointing at any fingers. I'm not pointing any fingers, and I'm not criticizing you if you do this, okay? I'm happy that you're just clicking and watching my ass and giving me somebody to talk to on the weekends, okay? But if you click on one of my reviews and you watch my opening statement and then you grab the bar and you slide it to the last couple of minutes of the video to hear my summary and see my final review score, then that could be a 20-minute video that you only watched 3 minutes of. So then it shows on my screen average viewer time for a 20-minute video, 5.5 minutes. The algorithm assumes, oh, well, you must not be good enough to keep people's attention for the full 20 minutes, so we're not going to recommend your video to people who aren't subscribed to you. That's how it works. So I would ask that you guys do me a favor. If you're going to watch one of my videos, but you, for whatever reason, only really care about what review score I give it at the end of the video or whatever, then let it play in the background. Open up another window and do whatever you're doing and let it play in the background till it's finished at least. That's the only other thing I'm going to ask from you guys. If you're going to watch my video, even if you don't want to watch the whole thing, just leave it open in another tab until it's done playing. Same thing happens with the 7thCast. 7thCast is 3 hours long. Average watch time, 37 minutes. And that's part of what helped kill the channel. Was that I got to the point where I was doing the 7thCast more than I was making actual videos, and the watch history, the engagement history on the 7thCast is that the average person clicks in to watch the first 30 minutes or so where I actually cover the topics that are in the description for that week, and then when I'm done talking about those two topics, they quit out. They don't care about all the Q&A stuff. And that's part of what has killed the channel. I tried to fix that by moving to Twitch, but that cut my audience for the 7thCast in half because you guys apparently hate Twitch. So I came back, and that's why I opened another channel, so that those videos' views won't be murdered by being associated on the same channel with the 7thCast. But the same thing is going to happen if you click on the reviews but don't watch the whole video. So you would be surprised at how much your behavior in regards to the people you like to watch affects them and how well their channel does. So if you have YouTubers that you're big fans of and you support what they do and you like their content, do them a favor when you click on their vids, watch the whole vid. If you can tell from the title of the video that it's not a topic you have any interest in, you'd almost be better off not watching it at all than to click on it and watch 5 minutes of it and click out. That's the truth. Anyway. The Final Fantasy 13 review is probably not one that I'm going to re-upload because of how bad the quality is. Some of my really old reviews, I wasn't capturing at 1080p. I wasn't capturing at 60 frames per second, and it wasn't even HD in some of my older reviews. And so the video quality is just dirt poor. I had a crappy microphone. So some of the really old stuff I won't be uploading to the new channel. Let's see here. I watched the Final Fantasy 15, Red Dead Redemption 2, Last of Us 2 about 3 times. The reviews. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I like watching full reviews because I want to know why or what makes the game good or bad. Well, plus, if you skip to the end, even though I don't do on-camera skits for my reviews anymore, and that was something I started doing in the middle of my career, and I only did it like 2 or 3 times. I did that for The Division. I did that for Street Fighter V. I did it for Call of Duty Black Ops 3, 2 or 3, I think. And so, I only did that a small handful of times. The rest of them have only been voiceover. And I don't do the on-camera stuff anymore. But if you just skip to see the summary and the score I give, you're skipping over all the gags and the jokes, which for me is the real reason to watch my reviews, not just to see what score I give it, but I put a lot of work into the script, because that's the most fun part for me, is writing the script for the review. And I make pop culture references and jokes and whatnot, and if you're skipping, you're missing all of that. You're missing the point of the video. So like I said, just if you're going to support a YouTuber, support them by watching the entire video that you click on. It helps them out a lot. And drop them a like and post a comment. If you haven't been active in my comment section, the guys in here who have been will tell you I respond to almost every comment that's posted in my videos. I take the time. Even when I was more popular and I would get large numbers of comments in the hundreds, it may take me a while, but I will eventually reply to every one of them, even if it's just me saying thanks for watching my review. You'll get something from me when you comment. So, watch the whole thing, like and comment. That's 3 things that you can do to support a YouTuber without paying a dime for it. Let's see here. I like to watch because you don't talk any fanboy nonsense and any other social woke BS, and you're way, way older than most of us here, and your info is on point. But that's another thing that's actually a strike against me on YouTube, because they like to promote young people that the kids and the teenagers will watch, which isn't me. That's not to say that guys my age can't be successful on YouTube. I can point to plenty of people in the current gaming community and in the retro community that are my age or older that have way more subs and views than I do. So, did you get any hate for your Last of Us 2 review? When it was originally posted, yeah. Endless Hallway 13. I also went back to watch your Mod Nation Racers review. I forgot that you didn't like that game. I remember really liking the game. A sequel would be nice. The sequel was on Vita. And the Vita game was better than the PS3 game. But I never reviewed the Vita game because capturing footage from Vita games was a pain in the ass. I always watch the entire vid because I don't want to miss your great sense of humor. Appreciate it, Ace of Horns. Appreciate it. I try to be funny. I'm not always successful, but I try to be funny. I like watching deep reviews of games. Those 5-minute reviews from IGN and GameSpot are trash. Well, then you're going to love the video that I'm posting on Monday. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to go very in-depth. Very in-depth. I haven't watched an IGN review in ages. I like long-form reviews and retrospect. I do too. I like channels that, like that Gamers channel that does like the rise and fall of this series. I love that shit. I love that channel. But at the same time, I did things a little bit differently with my Dark Alliance review. I was a lot more animated and put a lot more emotion and inflection in my voice. Previous times, I tended to, this game came out in 1985, and it did this, and it's a piece of shit. I kept things kind of deadpan, but I did it differently with Dark Alliance, and I got a couple of positive responses about that it gave the video more energy, and so I'm not going to try to be, I was in the past when I've done my reviews, I've tried to make them sound more still snarky, but on a professional level, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Screw it. I'm just going to be me. Let's see here. Old school gamers are being pushed out by e-girls. You're not wrong. Fat gamer survived COVID. Good to hear. Good to hear. You got to be careful with that stuff. You got to be really careful. I know a lot of people that avoided every previous strain of this crap, but caught Omicron. Me and 8th have been safe so far because we don't go anywhere. Hence why we weren't at the premiere of the Game Chasers movie. We were both invited, but couldn't go. So, we've been safe so far, and both of us are triple vaxxed. But you got to be careful with that crap, man. And you watch, this summer is going to come around, and the hospitalization is going to drop some, and people are going to start saying, just like last year, we made it through it. Everything's back to normal. And then come around the fall, it's going to spike again. We got to make sure this time. I mean, you got to live your life, that's for sure. And not everyone like me and 8th can just sit in the house and still be, functional. I work from home, so it's not a problem. But for other people, that's not a possibility. But you've got to be safe about this crap, or it's just it's just going to perpetuate. We need to, in the least, we need it to get to the point where it's just like the flu, and once a year you got to take a shot to avoid getting it. When we get to that point, we'll be all right. They'll probably, in fact, combine the two, so you end up getting one shot per year that's a COVID/flu shot. That's probably what's going to happen. If we can get it down to that point. I think it's going to have to mutate a few more times before that happens. But let's see. We'll see. Because let me tell you, the flu that we get every year now is a mutated form of the swine flu from 1918 that killed millions of people. It's mutated every year since then, and so the flu that you have gotten every year of your life is a weaker, mutated form of that flu from 1918. And that's what COVID's going to be. That's what COVID's going to be. I feel it in my nuggets. Let's see here. Yeah, G4 is a dumpster fire. It's dead now. They still have 490 something thousand subscribers, but their views for a channel that big are a joke. I watch channels that don't even have a fraction of the subscribers that they have, but they get more views per video. It's a joke. Who's worse, IGN or G4? They're both equally bad for different reasons. I really like Matthew Matosis. I think he was one of the first to do long-form review. I don't know that I've watched him. Is Pfizer the best to get? I don't know. I've heard good things. We got the Pfizer stuff. I've heard good things about Moderna. I heard that there's like this new virus vaccine coming from this other company that's supposed to be better than either one, but I don't know if that one's ever going to make it to market or not. And, I read about that like 3 months ago, so who knows? I like Act Man and White Light. I don't know them either. I had a bad case of acute sinusitis a couple weeks ago. Thought it was COVID. Yeah, I get sinusitis and sinus infections and that kind of thing on a regular basis because my sinuses have been messed up since I was a little kid. But, if I had COVID, I'd know. But I don't. And I haven't. I mean, back when this thing first started, like somewhere around February of 2020, I got what I felt was a sinus infection around that time. And I was sick for about 4 days, but I wasn't even sick enough to the point where I couldn't work. I was just kind of stopped up and felt lethargic, but I never had the really bad sore throat. I never had any congestion in my chest or a cough or anything. And it went away after about 3 or 4 days and I was fine. So I don't think that was COVID either. Because for one thing, 8th didn't catch it from me. So The Fries guy. You're thinking of Louis Anderson. He didn't die of COVID though. He died of something else. Same thing with Meatloaf. Meatloaf died of something else. Sony could. I don't. I don't think Sony could have afforded. Sony couldn't have afforded paying 67 billion for 68 billion for a company or whatever it was. Uh, I haven't been sick since 2019. I haven't had the flu in years. I haven't had the flu since I moved to Texas. Uh, I've had sinus infections, but I haven't had the flu since I moved to Texas. And I haven't even caught con crud when I've gone to conventions. But like, a lot of the folks that I know who go to the gaming conventions over the past 2 years have caught the coof at least once. I know some that have caught it more than once, and that's why me and Eighth have avoided the cons. Crash never belonged to Naughty Dog. Uh, it belonged to Universal, and then Activision bought Universal, and so that's why Activision owns Crash, and now Microsoft, if the buyout is allowed to go through, will own Crash. Yup, yup. Oh man. You guys know that I like anime. And I'm always looking for the next show that I want to watch. I started watching an anime this past week. And for those of you who watch anime, uh, I'm not generally a big fan of what they call the isekai genre, which that's basically the genre where someone either gets transported to an alternate world or transported into an MMO that they play, or they die horribly and they're reincarnated in another world. Really, the only one that I've ever watched out of that genre and enjoyed it. There's only been a couple of them, and one of them was that time I died and was reincarnated as a slime or whatever. That one was kind of interesting. But I started watching this one. Uh, I can't remember the name of it. Makuro Tensei or something Tensei. And it's about this otaku guy in Japan, a hikikomori guy that lives in his little apartment, doesn't work a job, and lives on government assistance and just sits and plays MMOs all day. It's about that kind of guy, and for some reason he decides to go out one day. I think he needed to go to the grocery store or something, and he sees these two kids that are about to get hit by a truck, and he runs to shove them out of the way, and he gets hit by the truck and dies. And when he wakes up, he's been reincarnated in an alternate world, and he's a newborn baby. And so the story is about him growing up in this new world, and he's got the mind of a 40-something-year-old man, but he's in this body that starts out as an infant, and by the time the story really kicks into what it's about, he's about 12 or 13. And it had a little bit of fan servicey humor in it, because he was this kid who shouldn't be having adult thoughts, but he's a 47-year-old man inside this body, and so he would like steal his teacher's panties and that kind of crap. Usual kind of fan service comedy, and that was fine. Then it got to this one episode where this 47-year-old man, trapped in the body of a 12-year-old boy, allows himself to be seduced by a 15-year-old girl. And it doesn't show anything graphic. It's all just, Hollywood romance type scenes. But I'm thinking, here is a 47-year-old man putting the long one-eyed one to a 15-year-old girl, I'm out. I turned it off and I haven't watched any more of it. I'm willing to overlook a lot of things out of Japan because of the differences in the culture. But watching a 47-year-old doing the horizontal mambo with a 15-year-old chick, nope. Not watching that. No. I'll go back to watching Demon Slayer. Thank you so much. Or My Hero Academia. I mean, crap, Berserk is full of sexual assault. But at least it's all adult. From Tokes, I've been taking Centrum multivitamins for the past 10 years, never been sick. Well, that's cool. I have a pretty crappy immune system, so I have to be more careful, Tokes. Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan? I like Demon Slayer. I've only ever watched like most of the first season of Attack on Titan, and I got so bored that I stopped watching it. Vinland Saga was awesome. I wish it had gotten renewed for a second season because I was really getting into it. Yeah, I loved the whole first season because I love like Viking stuff anyway. Viking and Norse mythology and Norse history. I love that stuff. And so Vinland Saga was right up my alley. And it was great. And this movie that's coming out, Norseman or whatever it's called, it has some plot similarities with Vinland Saga to the point where you could almost call it a live-action adaptation of Vinland Saga because some of the plot is so similar. So I'm looking forward to watching that too. Where do you get your gaming news? Mostly I watch my Twitter feed. That's where I get most of my gaming news from. Because if something big happens, almost instantly that the story drops, somebody will say, "Hey, 7th, what do you think about this?" And I haven't, and up to that point, not even aware that it happened yet. I hear about it on Twitter before I hear about it on anywhere else. Four Horsemen. God, I miss TCAP. What is TCAP? I'm surprised the woke mafia hasn't gone after Master Roshi. I don't know what that is either. Demon Slayer is that guy with the green checkered... Yeah, that's him. I have a great immune system, but I'm still scared of catching the coof. I know people that have died from it. A person that I've worked with who lives up north, up in the northeast United States. He died from it this week. Just this week. And people in our community have almost died from it. The fat gamer almost died from it. He came this close. It's not a joke. And it's not fake. And it's not just the flu. Yeah, you can't really trust what the media says from either side of the media. You can't really trust what you see on Fox, and you can't really trust what you see on CNN. If you really want to know the truth about how bad it is, look at the people around you, or look at the families of the people that you know, either in real life or online. I know personally people who have died from it. And, I've known people who were vaccinated who caught it, but didn't have to go to the hospital for it. Most of the people that I know who have died from it were not vaccinated. In fact, I don't know anyone personally who was vaccinated that ended up in the hospital and passed away. Personally. I know there's been some cases, but personally, the only people that I know who have passed away from it were not vaxxed because they were afraid to get the vax for one reason or another. I know people who are comparing Berserk to Demon Slayer, and I don't know why, due to the fact that I know nothing about Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer has a lot of emotion to it, and it has characters that you can get invested in it who may or may not survive. But as far as tone and the level of the violence, it has demons in it, like Berserk, but the sheer violence of it, Berserk is on a whole other level from Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer has way more comedy in it than Berserk does. Way more. When it comes to like violence and gore in anime, it can be hard to find one that will kick you in the gut like Berserk does. Berserk in some instances can be a hard one to watch, especially the end of the Golden Arc. The way that one ends, it even for me, as desensitized as I am, that last episode, both in the original anime and in the Golden Arc trilogy, not easy to watch. There hasn't been anything like that in Demon Slayer so far. Not even close. But Demon Slayer is a really good show. Should Guardians of the Galaxy story, a game story, be incorporated into Volume 3? I don't think that's necessary. I think it can be its own thing. Not everything has to be linked. What are some of the good horror anime? I'll tell you a good horror OVA, a good horror anime movie, was Wicked City back in the day. Hard to find now. You won't find it on streaming services. You'd have to dig around to find like a used DVD or a used VHS of it. That movie is messed up. That movie has a demon woman who can crawl around like a spider and spin a web out of her hoo-ha that has teeth in it that opens and closes like this. That movie messed up. I've heard Corpse Party is good, but I've never watched it. Parasite is a good, darker, horror-ish anime. Another two that I like that isn't a series but is a set of movies is Vampire Hunter D. If you liked the Van Helsing movie, if you like Solomon Kane, Devil May Cry, that kind of the Castlevania anime, you need to watch Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. They are badass. Give them a watch. Good stuff. Master Roshi is Goku's teacher. Oh, I don't watch Dragon Ball. There's too much of it where they're just floating in, at least in the ones that I watch, where they'll spend entire episodes just floating in the air, yelling at each other about what they're going to do and not actually doing anything. I'm not talking about current Dragon Ball, but the Dragon Ball that I saw like when I was in my Toonami or whatever, when I was in my early 20s, and I just couldn't get into it because of that. It might have been a different story if I'd started it from the beginning. But I watched 3 episodes in a row where they were just floating in the desert, yelling at each other. I'm like, no, I ain't watching this. I ain't watching it. Man, we are being ate up with bots tonight, ain't we? What is up with that? Just ate up with bots tonight. I don't know. I had one from the one named Shadow. I had one family member on my mom's side caught it and almost died from it, but he had previously had cancer. So she had been through treatments and had a compromised immune system. Oh, meanwhile, I almost forgot. We have 1 hour remaining. 1 hour left to get to another $40 to extend the stream by an hour. We're $40 short. So we'd need 4 more $10 donations, or eight more $5 donations, or 2 $20 donations, and then you get to watch me for another hour. Otherwise, we're ending in an hour. Or at this point, ending in like 48 minutes. Why is the book of Boba Fett so boring? 2 episodes left. I don't know. Like I said, episode 2 was the only one that were good. I wouldn't say that it's boring. It's just dumb. There's some really dumb stuff in it. Like episode 3, where you had those guys, you had those wannabe biker guys driving around on like Power Ranger colored flying mopeds. Whose bright idea was that? That was the stupidest looking crap. Didn't look nothing like Star Wars. It looked like something you might see in Doctor Who or Red Dwarf. And I love Red Dwarf. But I don't want Red Dwarf in my Star Wars, damn it. My very first exposure to anime was Ninja Scroll. Do you remember? I've seen Ninja Scroll several times. That was the one with the woman that had the poison hoo-ha. So anybody that messed around with her hoo-ha died. I remember that one. Man, the Japanese love their deadly hoo-has in anime, or they used to. Maybe not as much anymore. Any good vampire horror animes that you know of? Yeah, there was one where it had like warring vampire factions and like a post-apocalyptic type of thing, but I can't remember the name of it. It had like this elite force in it that wore like these green and white and black uniforms, but for the life of me, I can't think of the name of that anime. It was pretty good, but I can't think of the name of it. And I mean, it's not exactly, it's not literal vampires, but it has the feel of vampires. Would be Tokyo Ghoul. Because, yeah, they're not vampires, but they eat human flesh. So it might as well be the same thing. Because they're not like zombies. They're sentient like vampires, but they eat human flesh. So Tokyo Ghoul might scratch that itch for you. Oh, Nihon's. That eclipse where just about everyone dies comes out of nowhere. Oh, and Berserk? Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Vampire Hunter D, done by the same guys who did Fist of the North Star. So, yeah, I love Fist of the North Star. Not so much the newer ones. I love the original one with the really bad American dub. Love it. Love it. The newer ones, not so much. And good God, avoid the live action Fist of the North Star movie like the plague. Starred Gary Daniels as Kenshiro, and it was terrible. It's terrible. It's funny because of how bad it is, but it's terrible. Only ever watch it if you can watch it for free. I think you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. It wasn't even made in widescreen. The only format you can get it in is old pan and scan. I've had people tell me forever that I should get into One Piece. The only thing I've ever had fun with in regards to One Piece are the video games, but I've never really gotten into the anime. I mean, for God's sakes, it's 1,000+ episodes long. It would take me forever to catch up, and I'm afraid I'd lose my interest well before I ever caught up to it. That's one of the reasons why I got out of Fairy Tail. I used to really like Fairy Tail, but it got to be so damn long that I just couldn't stick with it. I'm amazed that I'm still watching Black Clover, because it's now to like episode 160 something. It's going to, I just finished season 4 the other day. And it amazes me that I've stuck with it. Hellsing is a good vampire show, but I haven't been able to get into Hellsing that much. I've watched it, but I haven't. It's one of those ones where I'll watch an episode and then I might go another month before watching it. It's not like with Berserk where I watch one and I just got to watch the next one. Berserk keeps me glued. Not the new Berserk. Not the new Berserk. Oh, God, no. That animation was horrible, and they cut out so much. Yeah, I don't know why, if they were going to do the Black Swordsman arc, why they would start where they did. And plus, towards the end of it in season 2, they completely omitted the main antagonist of that storyline. He's not even in it. He's not even referenced. Where were they going to take it? I wish someone would pony up the dough and just say, we are going to do all 41 volumes of the manga. From start to finish, we're redoing the whole thing. No storylines are being left out. This is what you're getting. And it's going to be done by the same studio all the way through. 24 episodes per season till it's done. And just do it. This crap of we're only doing the Golden Arc, or we're only doing this little piece of the Black Swordsman arc. Just do the damn manga. For Christ's sakes. And now I've heard rumors that someone wants to do a live action series of this crap. And, a live action of Berserk is going to be so bad. Like, horrendously bad. Like the absolute worst live action adaptation of an anime ever is what that will be. Not unless they gave it to someone like, Del Toro to do. If he did it, it might be good, but that's highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Berserk 1997 is the best adaptation, but they don't even show the real ending of the Golden Arc. They cut off that last bit. You get to see it in this newest show, but because of the fact that you don't see any of the previous stuff that led up to it, when you do see that ending in the newest show, you don't get the emotion out of it. Now, they do have the ending in the Golden Arc movie trilogy. But the Golden Arc movie trilogy cuts out a lot of the stuff that was in the original 97 anime. So that's why I'm saying somebody should get the rights to it. A really good studio. Like maybe the guys that do, Gurren Lagann and Back Arrow and all that. Because they're usually doing such high energetic stuff. Give them something really dark and serious like this to see what they can do with it, and just do the whole damn thing, start to finish, be done with it. Yes, I've watched the Castlevania anime. It has its ups and its downs. Yeah, I'm not. We don't normally get these in here, so I don't know why we're getting them tonight. It's almost like we've been specifically targeted tonight. There's a troll that's like doing this, and not just some bot. Yeah, I absolutely do not want a live action Berserk. Like I said, there are maybe specific directors that if they committed to an entire series could possibly do it justice. Very specific directors that I don't think would commit to an entire series like that. Certainly don't want a live action movie, but very specific directors could possibly pull it off if done as a series. But I don't think those directors would do a series, and that's why I don't want live action Berserk. Thoughts on Matt Damon's Hereafter? I don't think I've seen it. They're thinking about doing a sequel to the Breaking Bad movie El Camino. Why? Why? We didn't need to know what happened to Jesse after that night to begin with. So stupid. So absolutely stupid. I don't understand that. I don't understand it at all. I don't understand it. Oh, about 40 minutes left, folks. 40 minutes left. From Four Horsemen. I just don't understand Hollywood. These people were once kids. How can you be so creatively bankrupt? Because it stops being about the creativity and it starts being about what'll make the most money. It's that simple. You have very few directors nowadays that can go in no matter what and make the movie they want to make. And even then, there's limits. Because I can guarantee you, they allowed Spielberg to do a remake of West Side Story, but I can guarantee you, you're not going to see him do another remake of a musical anytime soon. And even so, Spielberg has changed so much from the Spielberg that I grew up with. The last time he did anything imaginative, it wasn't even from an original storyline. It was frickin' Ready Player One. And Ready Player One isn't all that imaginative because it relies so much on member berries. I don't think Spielberg has done anything that was really imaginative since Minority Report. He's just not the director that I grew up with. When you had Jaws and E.T. and Indiana Jones, he's not the same. He made Schindler's List and The Color Purple, and after that he's stuck a lot to either adapting pre-existing properties or more serious stuff like Munich and Catch Me If You Can and stuff like that. Which I loved Catch Me If You Can, and I watched Schindler's List, and not really a movie I can say I enjoyed, but I respect it. Same thing with The Color Purple. I wouldn't say it was a movie that I enjoyed, but I respected it. And same thing with Munich. But it doesn't have that Spielberg feel. Now instead you have guys like J.J. Abrams trying to rip off the Spielberg feel from the 80s. And what it proves is there's still a market for that Spielberg, but that's not who Spielberg is anymore. It's like now he views himself as an auteur. And I guarantee you the main reason that he made Ready Player One is because he thought it would make a lot more money than it did. Well, there's Jurassic Park, but again, Jurassic Park was not an original concept. Jurassic Park and Jaws wasn't either. Jaws was based on a book, but the movie had a much different feel than the book did. But Jurassic Park was based on Michael Crichton's novel. But yes, I really loved Jurassic Park. But the last time that I felt like he was really trying to push the envelope as far as what could be done on film at the time that it was made, was Minority Report. Because yeah, there's some cool stuff as far as CG in Ready Player One, but it's certainly not the first time that we've seen a live action movie that was mostly CG, and it's not the first time we've seen a person in the real world going into a digital one. We've seen that with Existence. We've seen that with The Matrix. We've seen that with Tron and Tron Legacy. We've seen it before. The thing that set Ready Player One apart was the member berries. That's it. That was its big hook. And he expected way more people to show up for it, and they didn't. Don't get me wrong, I like that movie. But I like it for the same reason that I like a lot of things. Because it gave me the chance to see, the Iron Giant and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Battletoads and Master Chief and Voltron and Back to the Future and Chucky and all the other stuff on the screen at the same time. That's why I liked it. Castaway or I Am Legend, who was more lonely? Castaway. He didn't even have another human to talk to. All he had was a frickin' volleyball. Do you consider PS Vita underrated? Been collecting for it before prices go up. Well, you better hurry up. Prices are already going up. Look at the price of what's that dungeon crawler series on there? Demon's Gaze 1 and 2. I've got the first one. I don't have the second one. Hella expensive. Incredibly expensive. They're over $100 going up some of those games are getting up in the $200 and $300 range. Vita games are getting really hard to come by. And we've got a decent sized Vita library. It's not near as big as it could be. It's not as big as our PSP collection, but it's pretty big. There's an actress, could make a good Casca. Look her up. Short hair if you want. Okay. Jurassic Park or Jaws, which was better? Between those two, I prefer Jaws because of the characters. I cared about the characters in Jaws more than any of the characters that were in Jurassic Park. That's what sets the two apart. Had better characters. I lost respect for Spielberg, Brother Natural. I lost respect for Spielberg when he was offered to direct Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and he thought it would be a good idea to combine the first 3 Harry Potter books into one film. Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. But I'm sure that's simply because he didn't want to commit to making at the time. They didn't know for sure how many volumes of Harry Potter there were going to be. Because, she could have continued the story, and in some ways did continue the story past his 7 years at school. So, I can understand Spielberg not wanting to commit to a 7, 8, 9, 10 picture deal and be stuck making Harry Potter. And plus he had already done a movie that dealt with children children actors and magic and whatnot, that being Hook, and Hook didn't exactly go over well for him. So I'm sure he was probably afraid that if he made Harry Potter, it would end up being Hook 2 and blow up in his face. Of course, that's not what happened, and you had Chris Columbus directing it. You know, the guy that did Home Alone 1 and 2, and it did great. I got my PS Vita 1001 version. Yeah, we have both the original Vita and the Slim Vita. So we have both. Do you think Con Air should make a female version? No. There's another one of those Russian bots. Lord. You see what happened to 355, all-female spy movie, MS-Activision. Yeah, it was an epic fail. Nobody went to see it. What was the main thing that made Vita fail? The price. Not only the price of the console itself, but the price of the memory cards. Because they went with a proprietary format and they charged out the ass for them. Kind of like with what they did with the PSP. You know, the memory was too expensive. And they marketed it as a console experience on a handheld. And it could do that, but there weren't that many studios that were committed to the idea of doing that. So you didn't really have that many games on the Vita that met the promise of console quality games on the go. You know, you had Uncharted, and you had a really good Ridge Racer, and you had Killzone, and a couple of others that were console quality games. But most of what was on the Vita was not on that level. And so if they had kind of altered the marketing, had it come in at a better price, and just used regular memory cards, I think the Vita would have been around a lot longer than it was. I still say it's worth owning one because it has a really good library. And it's proven that what the Vita was trying to do works because the Switch is a success. Because the Switch is just a more powerful take on what the Vita was with detachable controllers. Unless you get the Switch Lite, and that's even more like the Vita. I tell you. Sly Collection. I don't think I have Sly Collection on PS Vita. I think I had it at one point. I think that's one of the ones that the second Mrs. 7th took with her when we moved to Texas. Who do you think is going to play the next James Bond? I have no idea. We got about 26 minutes left, folks. 26 minutes left, $40 short. Ugh. My mama. Boo boo boo. Boo 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 boo. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Let me just look at something real quick. Okay. Yep. Somebody's trying to sell me adult content. I don't need it, so quit trying to sell it to me. Are you going to watch the new Batman movie? With Robert Pattinson. I'm not going to watch it at the theater. I'll watch it when it hits digital. I don't think Nintendo is ever going to go back to traditional consoles. Probably not. Probably not. They have found their niche and they're probably going to stick with it. What is the worst film you've ever seen? It was this low budget thing that was like Jesus Christ versus vampires. It was this really low budget type of absurd comedy movie. I don't remember the exact title of it, but that was the gist of it. Was Jesus fighting vampires with like kung fu and stuff, and it's bad. It's meant to be bad, but it's bad. I will tell you that one of the movies that I have enjoyed the least, at least that movie, I enjoyed it on a certain level. I really hate Zardoz with Sean Connery. I just hate that movie. I just hate it with a passion. Thoughts on The Warriors? It's an okay movie, but it hasn't aged well. I mean, I rewatched it like maybe 6 months ago, and now it's just really cheesy. It's a very cheesy, campy film. Sony said Vita failed because of the mobile market. If that was true, the Switch wouldn't be selling the way it is. So you know that's BS. No, I have not played Disco Elysium. And if I did play Disco Elysium, it wouldn't be on the Switch. It's not one that I've been willing to spend the money to play. And obviously I haven't reviewed it because, you know, that's not happening. Yeah, I saw Batman versus TMNT. It was okay. It was funny. You know. It wasn't the best Batman animated movie I've seen, but it was okay for what it was. Yeah, the new Batman movie is almost 3 hours long. That's going to be quite a commitment right there. I'm surprised that they're allowing the director to do that, to be honest with you. No, there was nothing wrong with the N64 or the GameCube aside from the fact that they didn't sell nearly as good as everything else out on the market at the time. Nintendo wasn't going to make a handheld because they learned their lesson from the Zune. You know, they tried to beat out the iPod and it bit them on the butt. Same thing happened when Microsoft tried to outdo the iPhone. You remember when Microsoft put out their own Windows phones and they held like this publicity stunt where they were holding a public funeral for the iPhone? Yeah, how'd that work out for you? Catwoman versus Elektra, which is worse? Catwoman overall is more entertaining because at least it's funny in a so bad it's funny way. Elektra is just boring. It's just a boring, not very good film because there wasn't enough of Elektra in the original Daredevil movie to make you care about seeing a movie that was just about her. They jumped into that too fast. They should have made this. They should have made a second Daredevil, and then have the storyline be about her coming back, and you could do the story of how she was resurrected in the sequel to Daredevil. Then try giving her own movie when you actually gave a crap about the character. But they didn't do that. They rushed it, and it tanked. The thing I don't like about the Switch is it's a Switch. It's underpowered. You know, when you've got a system where there are games on it that don't even look PS2 in quality, but the Switch in handheld mode can't run it at 60 frames per second, you got a problem. You got a problem. Now, I know there are some games that can run at 60 frames per second. I'm not saying that. But the lack of power in that system is really holding it back. 8th has a full-fledged Switch. I have a Switch Lite. I haven't touched my Switch Lite since I bought it last summer. The performance of it, I just can't take it. I can't take it. Movies that are at least 3 hours long should have an intermission in case... They used to do that. When I went to see Braveheart at the theater, they had an intermission where you could get up and go buy another drink and go to the bathroom. I want to say Titanic had one when I went to see Titanic at the theater. But, Avengers Endgame, no intermission. Did you like Spider-Man PS1? Stan Lee narrated it. I played it, but I didn't play it on the PS1. I played it on the Dreamcast because the Dreamcast version looked better. 7th, I just finished a replay of Dead Rising 1. What do you think of the Dead Rising series? I've never really gotten that into them. Never really gotten that into them at all. I had to stop playing Xenoblade 2 on the Switch. It kept dropping. Exactly. There's no reason why those games, looking the way they do, should be dropping frames on the Switch. That shouldn't be happening. Do you think the first Hellraiser is the weakest? Pinhead took like an hour to show up. No. Hellraiser 3 is dumb. And every Hellraiser after Hellraiser 3 was cheap, made for video crap that barely had anything to do with Pinhead. It's almost like he was the host of it instead of the main antagonist. Well, except Hellraiser 4, the one that had so much of it took place in space. I even forgot about that one. That one, I actually saw that one at the theater. Boy, I regretted that. But in my mind, the only Hellraiser movies worth watching are 1 and 2. Because 1 sets up the lore, 2 expands the lore, and then in 3, you've got, this guy that looks like Lemmy from Motorhead shooting CDs and crap, and, it just kind of ignores the whole idea that Pinhead regained his humanity, and now Pinhead's just back to being this not only an evil character, but a sadistically I just enjoy being evil and killing people character. So the third one didn't even have the character of Pinhead, right? And it just watch the first 2 and ignore all the other ones. Shit. I hope the next generation Switch is powerful, maybe on par with the PS4 Pro. It better be better than that at this point. No, I'm not going to buy a Steam Deck. Too expensive. And I barely play on Steam as it is, so why would I want a Steam Deck? I've got a computer that can play, pretty much any game right now at least, 1400p, 60 frames per second. Why would I want to play on a Steam Deck? I could play it on here if I was all that interested in Steam, which I'm not. Have I played Back for Blood yet? No, I have not played Back for Blood yet. 8th has played Back for Blood extensively, and he says that it's just a really crappy ripoff of Left 4 Dead. And yes, I know some of the Left 4 Dead people worked on this game, but according to him, it's not anywhere near close in quality to the Left 4 Dead series. What's your take on mountain people? I grew up around Appalachian people. I had extended family that were hillbillies that lived around and up on Signal Mountain, Lookout Mountain. Well, most of the people that live up on Lookout Mountain are rich people. Signal Mountain, different story. Or at least it was when I was growing up. I didn't like any Hellraiser movie past the first two. I've seen every single one. Pinhead in space versus Leprechaun in space, which is worse? Pinhead in space, because at least with Leprechaun in space, you knew what you'd signed up for. I have watched Inferno Hellraiser. I didn't like it. If that's that most recent one, that came out like a year or two ago, I did watch it. It had some interesting ideas, but again, barely had anything to do with the Cenobites. You know, they're not really in it all that much at all. And yes, I know the Cenobites were side characters for the most part in the first one, and the first one is mainly about Frank. But that was because they were establishing the lore of the Cenobites in the first one. I've seen Inferno, if it's the one I'm thinking about, the one that's only a year or two old, and I clearly did not see what other people that really liked it saw. You know, I just felt that it was, you know what that movie felt like? It felt like Rob Zombie trying to make a Hellraiser movie. That's what it felt like to me. And aside from House of a Thousand Corpses, I don't like Rob Zombie movies. That's House of a Thousand Corpses is the only one that he's made that I liked, and it's a ripoff of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. So Eighth will probably pick up the Cuphead DLC. I don't know if I will or not. Do you like the Uncharted series? I like Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. That's it. I didn't like 4. I didn't like Lost Legacy or whatever. And I wasn't a huge fan of the Vita game because it relied on the movement too much, the movement of the system too much, and it had way too many collectibles to have to keep up with. Way more than the main series. Have you seen the Wrong Turn series? The Wrong Turn series, as far as I'm concerned, is just an Appalachian ripoff of The Hills Have Eyes. And the first one was okay. The rest of them, I liked Jason X because it was funny, but I don't consider it a good Friday the 13th movie. But it's funny. Kind of sucks that Henry Cavill will never be Superman again. Well, never say never. You never know. Nintendo doesn't care about power anymore. They don't care about power anymore. You need any proof of that? Look at Metroid Dread. By all accounts, a great, fantastic game and the best Metroid in years. Certainly doesn't look current gen. Cyberpunk was barely acceptable. And that was only if you could avoid the bugs, which was easier said than done. It certainly was not the game that was promised by any stretch of the imagination. We have 10 minutes left, folks. 10 minutes left. So unless some really generous soul or a handful of generous souls drops $40 in the next 10 minutes, that's where we're cutting off for the night. Are you picking up Triangle Strategy? I have no idea what that is. Do you think Chucky will go to space? I don't want any of them to go to space. I don't want Freddy in space. I don't want any more of Jason in space. I don't want Texas Chainsaw Massacre in space. None of them should go to the Gremlins in space. I don't want anything in space except the Xenomorph and the Predator. You missed my comment. Hellraiser Deader was not too bad. Crazy concept. I didn't like that one either, Tokes. I just didn't like it. It was made direct for video, and you could tell. Pinhead barely had anything to do with it. It was an interesting concept. It was an interesting. That's the thing I'll say about everything that came out after Hellraiser 4. All the Hellraisers after Hellraiser 4 barely had anything to do with Pinhead, except for the last two ones. That one that was made by Dimension and the most recent one from like 1 or 2 years ago. Barely had anything to do with Pinhead, but some of them at least had an interesting story. So they might have made for a decent direct-to-video horror movie, if not for the fact that they had slapped a cameo from Pinhead and put the name Hellraiser on it. If they had just taken Pinhead and Hellraiser out of it and just released it as a low-budget horror movie, might have been better. Because at least then you wouldn't have the disappointment of it being a Hellraiser movie in name only. Fortnite or Minecraft, which is more successful? I don't know. I don't play either one of them. People were hyping up Metroid's graphics in response to people questioning its price. It does not look like a $60 game. It may play like a $60 game, but it don't look like one. To me, it looks like a $30 game. I've played some Metroidvanias that were $20 that looked better graphically than Metroid Dread does. So I'm not crapping on Metroid Dread. I know that it's an excellent game that got good reviews and that everyone seems to love it. We own it. I just haven't played it. But come on. Where he gets brainwashed by Krennic. I want to see a Superman movie with the Son of Darkseid story. Yeah. Are you going to watch Scream 5? Probably not. Do you think if Red Zombie made a few Hellraiser sequels, you think it would be better? You mean Rob Zombie? No. I don't want Rob Zombie touching the Hellraiser franchise. Because that's what the newest Hellraiser looks like to me. The newest Hellraiser to me looks like what a Hellraiser movie would be like if Rob Zombie had directed it. Yeah, I did not like the Rob Zombie Halloween films. I didn't like the two sequels to House of a Thousand Corpses. The newest thing he's making is a new Munsters, and everything I've seen of it looks god-awful. So, no. Just no. Did you know Gamer Nate is back under his original name? I don't care. I barely ever had any interaction with Gamer Nate. Best female lead of all time, Ellen Ripley or Sarah Connor? Ripley. Connor's okay, but I got to go with Ripley because Ripley shows more emotion than Sarah Connor does, at least after the first film. Because from in Terminator 2 and Terminator Dark Fate, Sarah Connor might as well be a Terminator herself, because the only emotion she shows is rage from after Terminator 1. So, have you seen the new Candyman? No, I haven't seen it. When it hits HBO or Amazon Prime where I don't have to buy it or rent it, I'll watch it. Yeah, the truck driving fanboy. That's Gamer Nate. I've had next to no interaction with him. I've had more interaction with Hebot than I've had with Gamer Nate. And I don't like interacting with Hebot as it is. Guy's a moron. Last 5 minutes, folks. Last 5 minutes. Looks like it ain't happening again tonight. We're extending the streak. I'm addicted to the song Clockworks by Meshuggah for some reason. I'm not overly familiar with that band. I've heard of them, but I've never heard them. Yes, I remember. Ellen Ripley was turned into a Sarah Connor clone in Alien Resurrection. Well, that's why nobody talks about Alien Resurrection. They barely talk about Alien 3. The only good thing that came out of Alien 3 was a halfway decent Super Nintendo game. Are you ready for the robot police to come to a town near you? Oh, the robot dogs, maybe. 7th, what song have you gotten addicted to? There's some songs by Volbeat that I'll listen to over and over again. And I listen to every single Descendants album multiple times a year. I really enjoyed the review you did on Ghost of Tsushima. I want to play it now. This may be a dumb question, but is it only available on PS4? You can play it on PS5. There's a director's cut, if I remember right. He-Bot Breakdown versus 6-hour road trip. Lord. Ghost of Tsushima feels like Sony doing their take on an Ubisoft Assassin's Creed style game, only it's actually good. That's essentially what Ghost of Tsushima is. It's the Assassin's Creed that people begged to have that takes place in Japan that they never got. And it's good. You remember that scene from RoboCop when Ed 209 kills... I remember everything about RoboCop. You know, my dad took me to see that movie in 1987 in a theater on Brainerd Road in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that the last time I drove past it was a nightclub. So, yes, I know everything that happens in that movie. I've seen the director's cut with all the gore put back in it. Yeah. Have you played the newest Predator game? No, I have not. Think we'll ever get a sequel to Kill Bill? No, I think Tarantino told the story that he wanted to tell in part 1 and part 2. I don't think he wants to risk making a part 3 and it not living up to the first 2 and ruining the legacy of the first 2 films. I don't think that'll happen. Is Ghost better than Horizon? I like it better than Horizon because I know both of them, have older weaponry in them and everything, but I'm not that big of a fan of archery gameplay. I'd rather I'd just as soon use a sword. I just don't like archery gameplay in games that much. And, at least with Ghost of Tsushima, I have a lot more options in the ways insofar as weaponry. And of course, I haven't played the second Horizon game, but I played a couple hours of the first one, and I just didn't care for having to use the bow so damn much. That's the main thing that kept me from playing it all the way through. I never finished it because I just didn't like the gameplay. Had nothing to do with the story or the characters or anything. I just don't like using a bow in video games. Whose idea was that making it squeal like a pig when it tumbled down the stairs? It was hilarious. What are you talking about? Oh, that. I don't know. I don't know if that was in the script or maybe that was an idea that Phil Tippett had, because I know I think it was Phil Tippett that was involved on the stop motion animation for Ed 209. I don't know. I haven't ever read the shooting script, so I don't know. 1 minute warning, folks. We're on the line. Up there it is. It is 10 o'clock. We've been on here 3 hours, and we are $40 short of the extension goal. So we are continuing the streak in that regard. So this is where I'm going to have to say goodbye to y'all for the night. I appreciate y'all stopping by. Remember to keep your eye on the new channel, the DBTS channel, because that's where all my new reviews are going to be, and there will be a new review on either Monday or Tuesday, depending on how long it takes me to put this massive thing together. I don't think it's not going to be as long as my Last of Us 2 review, I'll tell you that much. but it is going to be complicated to put it all together. So don't forget to check out DBTS for that when it comes out, and be thinking about what you want to talk about next Saturday. Drop me any suggestions for main topics on Twitter, and we'll go with that. But in the meantime, I'll see you then. Same 7th time, same 7th